Hello, my name is Bill, and in this video I'll continue with a shelf tour. So that this time it's more penguins, black classics. The Epic of Gilgamesh. So this was an interesting read, but the best part was the introduction and the notes. So miraculously preserved on clay tablets dating back as far as 4,000 years, the poem of Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, is the world's oldest epic, predating Homer by many centuries. The story tells of Gilgamesh's adventures with the wild man Enkidu, and of his arduous journey to the ends of the earth in quest of the Babylonian Noah and the secret of immortality. In addition to its themes of family, friendship, and the duties of kings, the Epic of Gilgamesh is above all about mankind's eternal structure with the fear of death. The Babylonian version has been known for over a century, but linguists are still deciphering new fragments in Akkadian and Sumerian. Andrew George's gripping translation brilliantly combines these into a fluent narrative and will long rank as the definitive English Gilgamesh. So there's multiple versions of the poem in here. There's different, the stories changed a bit over time and in different regions. So that's what they have to work with when they're translating. So even the most well-known version, the Babylonian version, is probably not complete. The Golden Ass by Lucius Apuleius. It recounts the boisterous, often brawny adventures of a young man who has the misfortune to be turned into an ass, falls into the hands of robbers, shares their fantastic exploits, and is finally turned back into a man by the goddess Isis. A thoroughly entertaining mixture of magic, farce, religion, and mythology. It was also written for a serious purpose, and scenes that describe the mysteries of Isis, the goddess whom Apuleius worshipped, are among the most strange, beautiful, and compelling ever written in Latin. For this new edition, Robert Graves' 1950 translation has been substantially revised by Michael Grant. It is accompanied by a new introduction, bibliography, explanation notes, and maps. Early Greek philosophy. Maybe this book will work for the first quarter of Historathon. The works collected in this volume form the true foundation of Western philosophy, the base upon which Plato and Aristotle and their successors would eventually build. Yet the importance of the pre-Socratic thinkers lies less in their influence, great though that was, than in their astonishing intellectual ambition and imaginative reach. Zeno's dizzying proofs that motion is impossible, the extraordinary atomic theories of Democritus, the haunting and enigmatic epigrams of Heraclitus, and the maxims of Alcmaeon, fragmentary as they often are, the thoughts of these philosophers seem strikingly modern in their concern to forge a truly scientific vocabulary and a way of reasoning. For this edition, Jonathan Barnes has brought together the surviving pre-Socratic fragments in their original context, utilizing the latest research and a recently discovered papyrus of Empedocles. His introduction provides a reassessment of this group of fascinating men and discusses the ways in which these ancient works remain profoundly relevant today. Heraclitus, Fragments. So you can read it in Greek on the left and English on the right if you want. In the 6th century BC, 2,500 years before Einstein, Heraclitus of Ephesus declared that energy is the essence of matter, that everything becomes energy in flux, in relativity. His great book on nature, the world's first coherent philosophical treatise and touchstone for Plato, Aristotle, and Marcus Aurelius, has long been lost to history, but its surviving fragments have for thousands of years tantalized our greatest thinkers, from Montaigne to Nietzsche, Heidegger to Jung. Now acclaimed poet Brooks Haxton presents a powerful free verse translation of all surviving fragments of the teachings of Heraclitus, with the ancient Greek originals beautifully reproduced in regard. James Hillman provides a brief illuminating foreword affirming the vitality of this deeply influential philosopher. Lucretius, the nature of things. Lucretius was a Roman philosopher and poet of the 1st century BC, whose only known work is The Nature of Things, a didactic poem in 6 books that expounds his philosophical beliefs. He followed Epicurean ideas, believing the world to be made up of tiny atoms moving in a void and viewing life in terms of pleasure or pain, representing good and bad, a profound exploration of man's relation to the earth, to the world, and to the gods. The nature of things was to have a huge influence on poets such as Virgil, whose Georgics was written only a generation later and was to affect the course of Western literature as a whole. A.E. Stalling's new, nearly line-by-line translation is in rhyming couplets and uses modern terminology to reflect the impact of the original poem. Richard Jenkins' introduction explores Lucretius's beliefs and his influence on subsequent literature. This edition also includes a preface, suggestions for further reading, and extensive notes. Ovid, Metamorphoses. This one gets a little thicker. Ovid's sensuous and witty poem brings together a dazzling array of mythological tales, ingeniously linked by the idea of transformation, often as a result of love or lust, where men and women find themselves magically changed into new and sometimes extraordinary beings, beginning with the creation of the world and ending with the deification of Augustus. Ovid interweaves many of the best-known myths and legends of ancient Greece and Rome, including Daedalus and Icarus, Pyramus and Thisbe, Pygmalion, Perseus and Andromeda, and the fall of Troy. Erudite but light-hearted, dramatic and yet playful, the Metamorphoses has influenced writers and artists throughout the centuries, from Shakespeare and Titan to Picasso and Ted Hughes. This lively, accessible new translation by David Rayburn is in hexameter verse, which brilliantly captures the energy and spontaneity of the original. The edition contains an introduction discussing the life and work of Ovid, as well as a preface to each book, explanatory notes, and an index of people, gods, and places. Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. So this was an interesting read. It's been a couple of years or so since I read it, so I can't tell you much about it. For several years of his turbulent life, in which he was dogged by ill health, exile, and political danger, Seneca, 4 BC to AD 65, was the guiding hand of the Roman Empire. His inspired reasoning derived mainly from the Stoic principles, which had originally been developed some centuries earlier in Athens. This selection of Seneca's letters shows him upholding the austere ethical ideals of Stoicism. The wisdom of the self-possessed person, immune to overmastering emotions and life's setbacks, while valuing friendship and the courage of ordinary men and criticizing the harsh treatment of slaves and the cruelties in the gladiatorial arena. The humanity and wit revealed in Seneca's interpretation of Stoicism is a moving and inspiring declaration of the dignity of the individual mind. Robin Campbell's translation captures Seneca's humor and tautly aphoristic style. His introduction and notes discuss the tension between a philosopher's principles and his acquisition of wealth and his role in advising the increasingly wayward and tyrannical Emperor Nero. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. So this is Marcus Aurelius's journal that he was writing it for himself, just to meditate on his ideas. So he never intended it for publication, but now it's a well-known self-help book today. Written in Greek by the only Roman emperor who was also a philosopher, without any intention of publication. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, AD 121 to 180, offers a remarkable series of challenging spiritual reflections and exercises developed as the emperor struggled to understand himself and make sense of the universe. Ranging from doubt and despair to conviction and exultation, they cover such diverse topics as the nature of moral virtue, human rationality, divine providence, and Marcus's own emotions. But while the meditations were composed to provide personal consolation and encouragement in developing his beliefs, Marcus Aurelius also created one of the greatest of all works of philosophy, a timeless collection of extended meditations and short aphorisms that have been consulted and admired by statesmen, thinkers, and readers throughout the centuries. Martin Hammond's new translation fully expresses the intimacy and elegance of the original work, with detailed notes elucidating the text. This edition also includes an introduction by Diskin Clay, exploring the nature and development of the meditations, a chronology, further reading, and full indexes. So I read this like you would read a novel, just straight cover to cover, but it's probably better read as a little bit each day. Early Christian lives. Written between the mid-4th and late 6th centuries to commemorate and glorify the achievements of early Christian saints. These 6 biographies depict men who devoted themselves to solitude, poverty, and prayer. Athenus records Antony's extreme seclusion in the Egyptian desert, despite temptation by the devil and visits from his followers. Jerome also shows those who fled persecution or withdrew from society to pursue lives of chastity and asceticism in his accounts of Paul of Thebes, Hilarion, and Malchus. In his Life of Martin, Sulpicius Severus describes the achievements of a man who combined the roles of monk, bishop, and missionary, while Gregory the Great tells of Benedict, whose rule became the template for monastic life, full of vivid incidents and astonishing miracles. These lives have provided inspiration and models for centuries of Christian worship. In her introduction, Carolyn White discusses the development of monasticism, the tradition of hagiography, and the sources, themes, and iconography of the lives. This edition also includes prefaces to each work, a chronology, a map, further reading, and notes. City of God by St. Augustus. It's another thick one. St. Augustine, Bishop of Hippo, is one of the central figures in the history of Christianity, and City of God is one of his greatest theological works. Written as an eloquent defense of the faith at a time when the Roman Empire was on the brink of collapse, it examines the ancient pagan religions of Rome, the arguments of the Greek philosophers, and the revelations of the Bible, pointing the way forward to a citizenship that transcends worldly politics and will last for eternity. City of God is one of the most influential documents in the development of Christianity. This edition contains a new introduction that examines the text in the light of contemporary Greek and Roman thought and political change. It demonstrates the importance of religious and literary influences on St. Augustine and his significance as a Christian thinker. This is also chronology and a bibliography. Translated with notes by Henry Bettinson, with an introduction by G.R. Evans. The Divine Comedy, Inferno. Purgatorio, Paradiso, by Dante. I started reading this. I was reading 1 cantos per day. I got most of the Inferno read, but I got distracted and didn't keep up with my 1 cantos per day. So now I have to start back at the beginning. Informed by a profound belief in the dignity and compassion of humanity, and influenced by the turbulent society of 13th century Italy, Dante's Commedia is one of the most extraordinary visions of sin and redemption in literature, a work of boundless invention and vast intellectual synthesis. It broke new ground with the vigor of its language and storytelling. The 3 parts of the Commedia chart the spiritual and physical journey of Dante. In the Inferno, he descends into a freezing hell with the Roman Virgil and his guide. In Purgatorio, he climbs Mount Purgatorio and is reunited with his lost love, Beatrice, and finally in Paradiso, he ascends to heaven in a sphere beyond space and time. This new edition brings together the 3 volumes of Robin Kirkpatrick's acclaimed translation of the Commedia, with a new introduction discussing the work in the context of Florentine politics, its experimental techniques and later influence, and the figures of Virgil and Beatrice. This edition also includes a chronology, further reading, maps, diagrams, and notes on each canto. So, before reading this, you should probably read Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and Virgil, and also Ovid. Metamorphoses. But I haven't read all of those. I started reading the Iliad once upon a time, and I don't have the writings of Virgil. So that's all for this video. I'll see you on the next one.